Happy birthday to POCO F1. Happy birthday to you. POCO F1, 2 years old, baby. 2 years old. Hi guys, it's Frankie from Frankie Tech. Good to see you guys again. And just to wrap up today, I want to do a special acknowledgement to this phone right here, the POCO F1, which I just realized this week celebrated 2 years since release. And how interesting that almost 2 years from when this phone was released, that we're going to be seeing this new POCO X3 NFC. And why is this so exciting? Because it is the first truly original release, not a rebrand here, since the POCO F1. And when this phone came out, guys, I just remember getting this from the store, going to the nearest park, and doing one of my classic Frankie Street Tech videos of this phone. This was one of the earliest phones on my channel, and it really helped push my channel on to even greater heights at the time. Now, to be completely honest, this is actually the second POCO phone that I owned. The first one that I had was the kind of bluish version, kind of grayish back version. But then about a month later, I picked up this gorgeous red color, and this has been the one that's been in my possession for the past 2 years. And I gotta tell you guys, I have absolutely loved this phone. I've continued to use this phone. You have seen it in a lot of my battery drain tests or other tests, serving as the timer for those. And the funny joke is that at the end of those videos, the POCO phone is really the last phone standing, which I find hilarious. But despite that, when this phone was released at $299 US, it made ripples across the industry. A Snapdragon 845 phone, yes, it had plastic build quality, but with that Sony IMX, I think it was 386 back in the day, a really decent LCD display, this phone brought so much to the table at $299. And so the POCO X3 NFC has big shoes to fill if it's going to be the first original release from POCO Global since this POCO F1. And when I think about what made this phone great, it was this no frills, no nonsense approach to just making the best possible phone for the price. And even at the time, I know a lot of people were a bit down about going back to a plastic build quality when a lot of Xiaomi's phones at the time were a metallic build. But how interesting that we've come full circle now, and now at phones at this price point, you see these kind of faux metal or faux glass looking devices when this POCO phone was unapologetically plastic. And just like the Pixel 4a that I just picked up, I appreciate phones that are unapologetic about their build quality, and that's the case with this POCO F1. But even better was the liquid cooling technology that it brought to the table. And just today we saw another announcement that this POCO X3 NFC is going to have this cooling technology 1.0, so taking what originally started in the POCO phone to the next level. Besides that, this phone shipped with a 4,000 milliampere battery. Meanwhile, the POCO X3 NFC is going to have a 5,160 milliampere capacity. We are past the point of where 4,000 milliamperes is actually a large capacity, and yet this phone still can easily last through a day. I don't typically use it as a daily driver now, but I also noticed that standby is still awesome on this POCO F1, and it's continued to receive updates, and I have no doubt that eventually I'm going to get MIUI 12 on this phone at some point, and that's just going to make this experience even better. But beyond just the actual physical phone itself was the entire idea behind what POCO represents. The idea of having everything you need in a smartphone. And at the time, I think this phone definitely delivered that. Now, this POCO X3 NFC finds itself in a very different marketplace. And now we see flagship processors like the 865 that are just way too expensive to include in phones of this price point. And so in place of a flagship processor, we get the Snapdragon 732G. In place of high refresh rate AMOLED, we get high refresh rate LCD. In place of maybe the fastest charging we see on phones recently, like 65 or 120 watts, we're going to get very respectable 33 watt fast charging, a large battery capacity, and in place of these crazy quad cameras with like 108 megapixels we see nowadays, this POCO X3 is still going to include a 64 megapixel main camera, 13 megapixel ultra wide, and it's going to have a quad camera setup, so you'll have everything you need in the camera front on this phone. But that being said, there was still something magical about about this POCO F1. And just knowing that at the time where the Note 9 and the Galaxy S9 were using the same chipset as the one found in this phone, that incredible level of value is just something that we don't see anymore in this day and age. And with the political tensions around the world, China OEMs are now looking to companies like MediaTek, like OmniVision, and slowly moving away from the standard Qualcomms of the world. And I, for one, welcome this change, but at the same time, you kind of get that bittersweet feeling because 2 years ago, POCO did something truly miraculous. They released a $299 US phone with the flagship Qualcomm Snapdragon chipset, and we really just have not seen anything like it before or since. And so that's why I want to say happy birthday here to the POCO F1. It truly was a game changer in the industry, and I think it deserves recognition here 2 years since release, and I can't wait to see how this POCO X3 NFC shapes up as the second, only the second original phone release, not a rebrand here, from POCO Global in 2020. But hit me up in the comments. What do you think of this POCO F1? And do you have any fond memories or stories about this POCO F1 if you have owned one? Hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. And that's it for this video. If you liked it, give me that thumbs up. And if you love the content of Frankie Tech, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon for future updates. Definitely so glad I kept this one throughout all these years. And it's going to stay in my possession even longer. But that's it for this one, guys. And this is where I leave you by saying, this is Frankie Tech signing off. Have a good one.